This next panel is called Pilot Programs, some of which you heard in the previous panel. It's sponsored by our friends at Green Sea. Dawn DeAngelillo, did I do that right that time? Yep. She's our facilitator. Dawn has a diverse and extensive work experience. Dawn started her career in the national sales manager at Mad River Canoe, where she successfully managed a sales force and exceeded sales goals. Dawn then served as the vice president of marketing at Small Dog Electronics, where she played a crucial role in growing the company from a startup to a multi-million-dollar Apple reseller. Dawn also worked as the office manager at Sanford Strauss Architects and as the technology coordinator at the Warren School, where she utilized their technical and teaching skills to integrate technology into the classroom. Furthermore, Dawn worked as the director of marketing at both Small Dog Electronics and Green Sea IQ, where she developed marketing strategies, managed budgets, and enhanced brand management. In addition to her corporate roles, Dawn has also freelanced as an internet, social, and marketing consultant. Throughout her career, Dawn has showcased strong project management, web design, and development skills, as well as expertise in programming languages such as JavaScript, PHP. I don't know how to say this next couple, so I'm going to skip ahead. How do you say MySQL? That's how you say it, just like that, huh? jQuery and APIs. Dawn also demonstrated proficiency in SEO, search, and content marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dawn and her panel.
Yeah, they really dug deep in the vault for some of those.
All over your LinkedIn.
Yeah. So my name is Dawn DeAngelillo, and I currently work for Green Sea IQ, and we are located in the Cordage Park area. We have about a 35,000 square foot manufacturing facility there. Kind of our goal is to create intelligent autonomy that works in the world's most challenging ocean environments. So what does that mean? We make robots that go into the oceans so that humans do not have to. You're going to see that robot walking around outside. Our robots crawl or swim, or in this case, we call anything that swims in the water, they refer to it as flying. You fly an ROV. So we are, any job that's dirty, dull, and dangerous, that's where you want to put a robot. And that is our company's goal, is to put robots where people cannot go because it's too dangerous, too dirty, and too dull to send a human. And one of those very dull and dangerous jobs is cleaning biofouling off of the hull of a ship. Shipping accounts for about 3% of the global carbon creation. If we can just, as a company, as a group of people, reduce that 3%, it sounds like a small amount, but it is big. It adds up, and that's one of our robots' goals, is to help the shipping agency reduce their carbon footprint. We also make a crawler that's called a bayonet. And these particular crawlers are the only thing of their kind. They work on the seafloor in the surf zone area. So where it's rough and tumble, where you can't swim because you're a diver, you can't put a boat on it because it's going to get tossed around. That's where our robot can go in and be used for things like measuring beach erosion, putting sensors on it and doing scientific research. And all of those vehicles, we have one out on our table. You can see the ship cleaning robot out on our table in the other room, are made right here in Plymouth. We are a 20-year-old company that started in Vermont, of all places. And about 5 years ago, we had an employee that we really wanted to have come work for us. And that particular employee happened to be a Plymouth resident, and he didn't want to go anywhere else. He wanted to stay in Plymouth. And that was in 2019. And it was before we knew that you could work from anywhere. So we opened an office in Plymouth, in Cordage Park, January of 2000, January 2000. And as you know what happened in March of 2000, We were not able to actually use the building or live in the place for another 9 or 10 months during COVID. But now our Plymouth facility is our largest office. We have over 50 employees, engineers, production workers, support staff, and we make the robots right there in Plymouth. And before we had this panel, I posed the question to each of these gentlemen, you know, what do we have in common? What common thing unites all of us? And I realized as I was listening to the earlier panel, there's actually a commonality that unites every single one of us here. We want to be able to be successful working. We want to have companies that can grow, but yet can sustain our employees in a helpful way. We all need housing to be affordable. The discussions that we are having are no different for Vermont than they are for Plymouth, than they are for absolutely any place in the world. Vermont's state motto is freedom and unity. And I was thinking, you know, common, community. I mean, this is really, the reason we're in Plymouth and the reason we're doing well in Plymouth is because of the community. You know, so I'll leave it just like that, and I'm going to have each of my other panelists introduce themselves, and I'm going to start with Charlie, who's sitting right next to me. Take it away, Charlie.
Thank you very much. Super excited to be here. I'm Charlie Sidoti. I am the Executive Director of Inshore. Inshore is a nonprofit innovation hub. We focus on the intersection of climate risk and insurance. And the last panel talked quite a bit about the risks flowing through. Those risks are flowing through right now, today. Losses have increased. They're more frequent. They're more severe. Non-renewal rates in the insurance industry. The third highest county in the country is Barnstable County right next door. And the South Shore, the coastal communities throughout Massachusetts have some of the highest non-renewal insurance rates in the country. And what we do is, and when you look at the insurance industry, a lot of the capital comes out of these global insurance centers like Munich and Switzerland and Bermuda. And when they look at Plymouth, what they probably know about Plymouth is that there's 37 miles of coastline and maybe a little bit more. And what we try to do is work with communities to do insurability planning, because the truth is that last panel that was here, they know more about the risk in Plymouth than the insurance industry does. And they are investing in resilience to manage that risk over the long term. And what they need to do, the next step to that economic development planning and that resilience planning, is insurability planning, so you shape the market, the insurance market that you need. And what we are doing is working with communities to both help kind of define this new concept of what is insurability planning, but do it through AI kind of driven. We're building, and we're going to talk about some of the projects in a little bit, but AI-driven total cost of risk simulators that feed into economic development planning, because without affordable, accessible insurance, the homeowners, you know, economic doesn't happen because the homeowners can't get insurance or get mortgages, buy houses, the businesses need insurance, and the startups, all the other startups need insurance as well.
Cool. My name's Matt Sanda. I'm the CEO of Upstream Carbon. And land is limited. We have one planet at the big picture, and then here in Plymouth, there's one town. There's a finite border around the town and a finite amount of land in the town. And so what we do at Upstream Carbon is we do geospatial intelligence, which is really just a fancy way of saying AI maps. And we use machine learning to predict which land is likely to be developed, and use that intelligence in the forward-looking assessment to look at where land should be protected because of its high natural value and high carbon and climate potential, and where maybe development should be streamlined. And so we have customers who range from municipalities to the federal government, to NGOs who help use us for like conservation planning and things of that nature. Very excited to talk on the panel today.
Good morning, all. My name is Dr. Josh Humberston. Thank you for the interest, Don and all. I have two hats I'm here today for. One is I'm founder and CEO of Coastal Measures, and the other being I'm director of a hazards lab with the Atlantic Resilience Innovation Institute, both local. And I'm sorry, I'm the only one who put slides in here, but I'll skip through them quick. I think someone today might have mentioned that there's 37 miles of coastline in Plymouth. My background is as an oceanographer and coastal scientist, and when I hear that, I hear there's 37 miles of opportunity and 37 miles of risk. And we need to optimize how we act against both those things. Here's just a short list of some of the industries, a few bold ones, that are all going to be relevant in the town of Plymouth. So what we need to do is really understand what those risks and opportunities look like, and you can't do that if you don't measure them. And so at Coastal Measures, we've built a platform called Cumulus that sucks in global models, local models, every sensor vendor we can work with, infuses that data together to give AI a chance to understand what that risk is. And as just one example here, we have a national flood forecast using AI that pulls in all these different models and predicts storm events that are hyper-local and national models like NOAA might have missed. And so this is really a tool for resilience planning, for understanding risk, for delivering data in a meaningful way to the decision makers who have some really hard calls on their hands coming up. And in my other role as a director of a hazards lab is really the implementation, operating how we use this tool. Sarah made it into this great picture here. This is deploying a wave buoy off the coast of Plymouth where we're streaming real-time data available to the public and anyone who wants it, and that's part of a 6-buoy network along the entire coast of Massachusetts, where we see that sometimes waves are twice as big in one location as they are in another. It depends on the storm direction, the winds, the tides, and understanding this full complex picture requires a lot of data and also analytics, but we want to make it simple for everyone else to do it. And so part of our mission at ARI is getting all the complex reality of coastal resilience out into the community, and the other branch of this, our teams there in the back, and I encourage you to talk to them, is workforce development. Helping grow a community of young folks right out of high school who have the skills to work in these domains, whether it's with sensors, on a boat, going taking profiles on the beach, because we do have risk. I know even with elevated coastline in Plymouth, it was mentioned in the previous panel, erosion is real, increased storm activity is real. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you sit on, we're facing these challenges. And the only way we're going to be prepared is if we understand the reality of what that situation is today. Thanks.
Great. I'm going to start with a few questions that were formulated, as I was driving down here from Vermont, and thanks to Mike Cahill for printing them out for me. So, gentlemen, how does your company tie into the blue economy? I mean, you are very different. Obviously, Josh's group is a bit different from Charlie's group. So, tell me a little bit about that. Let's talk about how you, we'll start with Charlie. How do you?
We could be a consumer of Josh's information. Those coastal blue economy data sets related to the hazards feed into the insurance industry, and what we're trying to do is make some of that information more consumable by the insurance industry, but also pair it with insurance market information. Everybody thinks that insurance is priced by risk, which is true, but it's also supply and demand of risk capital. So if in some areas, there's not enough risk capital just to back all the risk in a community. So what we're trying to do is bring the risk factors together with insurance market factors and help communities think about their problem, because they have problems around where do they put the resilience investments, like Josh was saying, but they also have problems around how do they build a capital pool that can support all the assets in the community and all the risk in the community. So we're trying to kind of take a holistic look at how you can shape the whole entire market based on a number of different levers.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess, as the non-blue economy company on the panel, there's probably two ways in which our company ties into blue economy and overall climate change adaptation and resilience. Number one is that emissions from lost trees and soil because of land use change in the US cause more emissions than all emissions from landfills. So there's a significant factor in terms of the loss of natural lands impacting atmospheric carbon dioxide, which rises sea levels. But more directly, I think something that, as Charlie and I have gotten to know each other in prepping for this panel has been interesting is our work looking at the potential to essentially create and plan out the town of the future, where you're looking at where is the land highly developable, where is there low risk from a insurance perspective, and where are there the important places to ensure that they stay as natural lands to improve the resilience of the community, improve the ability of the community to manage heat, manage flood events and things like that. And so, just like you were talking about partnering or opportunities, I'm seeing there's I can see why the town is working with both of us, because these two types of components, looking at developable land and what can be protected alongside those insurance risks and those factors very much go hand in hand in figuring out, okay, well, the decisions we make today, how are they going to impact us not just 5 years from now, but 15 years, 25 years? How are they going to impact the taxpayers? Are the costs going to be high because we have to be the backstop for all this climate-related disaster, or have we planned it in a way that's resilient to those risks?
Yeah, and coastal measures and ARI, I think the goal we have in mind and our way of supporting the blue economy is to be an enabler, accelerator. So I've worked for lots of federal agencies and seen how they use data and seen how they've struggled to use data correctly. And we've seen that, it's kind of universal in the blue economy that everyone needs data to make informed decisions, whether it's robotic platforms that want to understand the conditions around them, aquaculture farmers who want to know when it's safe to sell their crop, whether it's renewable energy providers, resilience in towns. They're all sort of getting stuck on this data question. And so we've really aimed to tackle that, simplify it, aggregate it together, not to do the work ourselves, but to enable all the people who, are the decision makers, stakeholders, who are doing that impactful work, that they're not getting stuck on this data aspect, so that they can see there is risk here. We see that the waves have been coming through the jetty, hitting here. At this angle, we're going to see erosion pushing sand this way. Now I can spend $1 million instead of $5 million to address that problem the right way to begin with.
Great. So all of you are working within the field of data, either by, reviewing it or collecting it, or how is this data helping the town of Plymouth or any municipality that you might be working to move forward either on climate change or land development or any other? How are you guys, where do you see your data or your data inference being used by a municipality? We'll start with Josh.
Sure. So the reason that we focus on in situ sensors, something out there in the water, is for a long time we've seen that models are, the old saying is, not all, I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm gonna stop there. But the issue is that we don't actually know what happens at the hyperlocal level. So we've seen in multiple sensors that you can have flooding on one part of a town's land and actually water going down on the other if the winds are going in the right direction. And using that information to give hyperlocal forecast for emergency response teams, for resilience planners is highly valuable. And what we've seen is that when there's a huge hazard that might cost a town millions of dollars, they say, oh, we need to go collect data now. Well, it's a little bit too late. So our goal is to get in, collect that data now, see trends about which storms actually caused the damage, which storms had the biggest waves coming towards the coast, so that those decisions can be made ahead of that big hazard hitting, so that they can begin to act smarter in the town of Plymouth. I see you guys nodding, so I hope I'm saying what we're working on together.
I think from our perspective, there's really two, maybe three ways that the intelligence we bring can help municipalities. Number one is acceleration on decision making, whether it's decision making for conservation or development. What we're trying to do is bring objective data to the discussion, which can be a very emotional one. There's a group of activists outside this morning. I don't know if any of you all talked to them, but I would recommend talking to them to hear their opinion. And there's a lot of people out there who have very emotional attachments to land as it is today, and land as they want it to be in the future. And so our hope is that by bringing data to the table, we can have informed discussions around, well, relatively speaking, this land is probably better to protect than that land. This land is probably better to develop than that land. And in doing so, hopefully accelerate and move beyond some of just the purely emotional conversations around what we're going to do with the land that we have. The second is from a planning and allocation perspective. What we're bringing to the table is we do a lot of above ground biomass carbon modeling with satellite data. And so municipality can use that to get a sense for their current carbon stocks in their forests, the carbon growth of their forests, and use that as a way to consider how they can apply that as looking at the holistic town land plus operations and their carbon emissions, right? Looking at the total emissions of the municipality. And then the third is investment. So one of the things that we're working on right now is we're working on launching a carbon credit program with forest landowners at the family level, small forest landowners that can bring investment into suburban, exurban, and rural communities to keep forests as forests, where those forests has high value and where there might not be enough investment to conserve high value forests today.
So you can model any catastrophe, and you can model the probability, the severity, and you can come up with a number that says if this scenario happens, the expected loss at an individual building or community-wide is some number. So that is an expected loss number, and knowing that number, and also knowing that at a national level right now, 60% of expected losses are uninsured. Most people think it's much lower. If you look at flood risk, it's much higher than 60%. It can be as high as 90%. So that percentage between the number of insurance and that gap to where the expected losses is, that's an unfunded liability to the people in the community and potentially the municipality if the people can't afford it and their home gets destroyed and they are uninsured. So knowing those two numbers provides an opportunity for planning, because you can invest in resilience that brings that top number down, or you can invest in programs that figures out how do we close that protection gap. So what we are trying to do is provide tools and insights to help both the community planners and the individuals and the businesses in the community to understand what their unfunded liabilities are, and then optimize their investments across very different types of investments. Things like physical, like how are we going to build a seawall, or physical things to bring risk down, or invest in insurance or other types of risk financing, and that is not being optimized right now. And we're working with large engineering companies who are saying, hey, if we kind of, instead of selling the $1 billion seawall, we sold a $100 million seawall, and then, worked on other things, including financial instruments. You can optimize your investments over time across different types of populations. And that's what we're really trying to get this mindset of. It's a holistic approach to risk management, not just risk reduction.
So to me, it seems like Plymouth is unique in how it thinks going forward. Am I wrong in making that assumption, or?
I would say absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
I think, we haven't been working long at all with Michael and Sarah and the town. But what they described this morning, kind of creating an innovation, a place-based innovation environment that it really connects money, ideas, talent, data. It creates an environment where, random collisions of these things things will happen, I guarantee it. And I think I saw Stacy Messier's here today, maybe, on one of the later panels. You see that is crucial for innovation to happen, because most people's plans don't kind of work out. I know if you've ever run a startup, things change, but doing it together with other panelists is other people working on problems, and having that supportive environment is really crucial to really kind of breakthrough innovations happening, I believe.
Okay.
And kudos to the team. They did a great job.
Same for you, gentlemen, or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to me, it just strikes me as this town's doing a lot to try to skate to where the puck is going and not look at where it's been. And that's really important when you're trying to, plan for a resilient, healthy economy at the local level. And then, that kind of action can bubble up, as that gets replicated elsewhere. I think a lot of municipalities I've chatted with, a lot of conservation groups I've worked with, there's a very reactionary approach, and if you can get beyond that, you can really start to make a future a reality, that you envision a reality. So.
Yeah, and I would say working with Plymouth has been an incredible experience. In just a short time, I was sitting right here 1 year ago, and Sarah McCormick said, "What can we do for you as a technology startup?" Which was pretty weird, because I was used to asking other people what they could do for me. And I said, "We want to work with you. We want to get pilots out there, get things going. We're looking for communities, municipalities who are wanting to be proactive instead of reactive, who are wanting to look forward and take some risks on new technology." And they said, "Let's do it." And so just a year later, we've already have buoys in the water making observations. We saw this most recent storm last weekend and how it varied along the coastline of Massachusetts. And so to me, that makes Plymouth really unique, because it's not only us, it's numerous other industries, and there's actually strength in numbers here, where our data can support Charlie can work, to understand which areas are insurable, which areas are suitable for development and their ability to be insured. So it's really that ecosystem development that I find is a huge strength in Plymouth, because we're not fighting the town to try to do something here. They're encouraging us, supporting us, helping us along the way.
I mean, each of you mentioned, getting started and where you might be in the business cycle. Now, for Green Sea, we're fairly well established in some ways, but we have some very new technologies that we're advancing. Where are your respective companies in the realm of taking off, and where are you? We'll start with Matt on this one. We'll start in the middle this time.
Yeah. So we are figuring things out, I think. I think a lot of early stage companies are figuring things out. But Town of Plymouth was great in helping us get a pilot use case for municipal use for our platform. We've had a handful of like consulting feasibility studies, providing services to NGOs. But the real catalyst was, and I don't think we would have gotten here without support from the town of Plymouth, was we were able to win a $2 million federal grant to scale our platform across the eastern US and use it to help engage rural and ex-urban forest landowners in discussions around the risks of conversion of their forest, the economic considerations as landowners who have most of their asset tied up in that, most of their capital tied up in that land asset, and discuss what a carbon opportunity might look like for the ones whose forests are at risk, how they might be able to benefit from committing to keeping that as forest forever under a managed scenario, and get, unlock income and unlock some of that capital for other objectives they might have, whether it be for retirement, for medical, for their heirs, just to use in other ways. So that we've been very busy with over the past 10 months, and it has been a interesting adventure having the current administration as your customer. But it's been Plymouth has been instrumental in helping us get some of the foundational, understanding, platform, like feedback and support for that.
How about you, Charlie?
We've been working on the problem for about almost 5 years, but we only recently started looking at kind of a technology solution, a simulator. And we have one other project in Massachusetts that is really focused on the simulator, Salem, Mass. And Plymouth really helped us get a CZM grant to kind of really put on top of kind of what we were working on. So it's a very nascent, but we're super excited to have kind of project number 2, investing into the technology, and just even, and it was only announced a few weeks ago, we are talking to like communities all over Massachusetts. It's already been catalytic for us, so it's great.
Great. Awesome. And Josh, anything to add?
Yeah, I definitely second that it's a confusing place being a startup in this administration. The targets, the goals, the pockets of money that you're going after are changing literally every day. But in spite of that, I think we've been able to feel and see some good growth, because houses falling into the water or beaches disappearing isn't something anyone can debate. It is happening, and so we stick to that message. So we've seen a lot of growth, expanded our network, our platform is live, and at the Atlantic Resilience Innovation Institute, we've seen amazing traction from the community, working in every different community along the seaboard right now. Our executive director, Jeremy Devaney, is actually headed up to an announcement of a big AI grant that we're a part of with the state. Using AI to understand coastal risk is incredibly valuable, and it's good to see that technology of AI coming into this space to help people make real decisions rather than some of the other potentially more questionable use cases that we've seen. I'm really excited to see how AI is coming in multiple technologies and industry fronts to, push this forward in our decision-making capabilities.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about workforce. For us as a company, it's been much easier to hire employees in Plymouth for our Plymouth location than it is for a lot of our other locations. So for us, this is a great workforce to try to leverage and to employ. And we have some, we pay quite well for, considering much better than a lot of the average tourist jobs that you might see. As far as expansion goes and workforce, is there anything you can lean on? I know you guys are still early on in your company development aspect. So from a workforce perspective, do you see any advantage to being in here?
I would say absolutely. We are a startup. We also work with a lot of insurance startups to kind of help them and incubate, accelerate other very niche startups. And the insurance industry of the future is going to be very, very different than the current insurance industry. The insurance industry right now is dominated by actuarial models that are mostly just backwards looking. And the insurance industry of the future is going to be more predictive, and using kind of a lot of the tools that they've been talking about, a lot of the data sets. And we believe that industry, and you're already seeing it, and it's also going to be a little bit more mission-driven and locally focused. We see the community development banks are lending into communities that are very difficult to lend into when insurance capital is very distant to the local communities. So we think there's a whole new model of insurance that we would be super excited if it is one, domiciled in Massachusetts and deeply connected to the blue economy, because understanding the science around oceans is a critical factor in all these risks.
Okay.
And there's a lot of development there.
I just got the 8-minute
Oh,
warning.
sorry.
So very quickly,
Yeah.
gentlemen, do you want to add anything to the workforce?
Yeah, I think
Point.
just one that's a little bit probably more statewide broadly is we've leveraged Mass CC, Mass Clean Energy Center for internships in the past, and it's been very successful, great source of funding. That program's been a great source of funding for startups to bring in interns and apply their knowledge in, a real world, highly valuable work scenario. And I think when I look at where the workforce opportunities really are, that I see emerging, I think it's on both the two sides of the machine. On one side, it's in helping train and improve the intelligence, and the other side is on the field work side of things, having to go out and into the field, apply, take measurements, apply whatever practice you're applying based on the insights from these machines. And so if you're looking at those two functions and looking to develop workforce or develop yourself in those, there's going to be a lot of career opportunity for you in the future.
Yeah, and I'll be quick. Being, like you said, the physical and the data is kind of interesting. Most computer scientists don't know how to do anything on a boat to save their lives. So finding folks who are passionate about working in the ocean, on the coast, but have technical skills is critical. And we've seen a lot of investment in this area generically across Massachusetts. We've received support from numerous organizations. The New England Aquarium has been, they were key to our early progress. I've seen this hub of excellence in the blue economy, blue tech evolving on the South Shore, with Plymouth being really an epicenter, Marshfield, New Bedford. I'd love to see some of this technology and workforce coming out of Boston, because there's an opportunity to grow this workforce exponentially in this area and really introduce a whole new sort of economic development sector. So I'm excited for the potential to tap into that as someone who's hiring interns and staff in the area.
Okay, so at this point, we'd love anybody from the audience, if you have questions to ask, or.
I'll throw you guys a softball. If you guys can talk a little bit more about the funding environment for your startups and where you're seeing funding opportunities. I know capital is going to be a really important part of your equation. Just walk us through where you're seeing opportunities today and where you think opportunities might open up.
Grants and bootstrapping.
I would agree with that one. The funding environment's hard. I mean, we were part of a DOE grant that was canceled right in the middle of it a few weeks ago. But we are also we're seeing the state step up. We're seeing corporates interested in figuring out how to support some of these. So, but it's definitely, there's strong headwinds.
Yeah, and I would second bootstrapping, grants. Can't emphasize how important grants are for early startups, incubators, accelerator programs. New companies and innovation just simply won't happen without those resources. We're definitely seeing more challenges from the federal government. A lot of startups pivoting to angel groups, investors who really care about a community rather than only a very quick ROI. So startups are having to innovate not only in their own technology, but in how they raise funds to get it out into the world.
That was great. Anything else? Anybody?
Any other questions?
If not, maybe just real quick, can you just leave us with how to follow your companies in the future, how we can stay apprised of your successes?
Sure. For Green Sea, you can find us on LinkedIn, just search for Green Sea IQ. And then each one of our product lines also has, the Everclean, you search for Everclean or for Bayonet, and you'll find us.
We're inshore.org with 2 N's, and we're also active on LinkedIn.
Yeah, upstreamcarbon.com. You can follow us there on LinkedIn. You can come find me, I'll give you a card, and it's got a QR code that you can meet with me on. So always happy to chat about whatever that might be relevant.
Yeah, and Coastal Measures and Ari have tables out there. Come see us, we'll talk your ear off. Ari's headquarters is up in Marshfield, so 15, 20 minutes away. We'll show you every sensor we have. We'll, tell you about how to get it in your town. So please come and talk to us. We'd love for you to be part of our story.